Everybody's workflow is different, and the Deliver page is designed to give you flexible options for creating outputs from low-resolution editing proxies to the highest quality master files. You can batch render multiple files to multiple resolutions, compression formats, and even destinations. With so many different options available on the Deliver page, you might think it would be difficult to learn, but actually it's probably the easiest part of Resolve to get to grips with. As you'll see in this lesson, we're going to use the Deliver page to create two separate outputs, one for high quality web streaming and another custom output to create files for visual effects work. So let's begin by making sure we have open let's go with the Age of Airplanes project. Almost every project ends up on a web streaming service in some form or other, even if it's just as promotional material. To output the most common file-based output formats, DaVinci Resolve includes easy setups, presets that automatically configure all the parameters for an output type that you select. So if we go to our rough cuts bin, let's go to the edit page and let's go to our rough cuts bin and let's open up the Fairlight rough cut. So this is the timeline that we're going to prepare for export on the delivery page. At the bottom of the DaVinci Resolve window, let's click the Deliver button to open up the Deliver page. And let's hit Shift Z as well. And in the Deliver page, it's relatively straightforward. Now you're familiar with Resolve's other pages. We have our toolbar buttons at the top. We have our render settings. This is the main area we'll be working with. We have the viewer. We have our render queue up in the top right. And we have our timeline, which displays a graphical representation of the timeline, similar to the edit page. Just coming back to the toolbar at the top, you'll use that toolbar to select tape-based output or to adjust render settings for file-based output. When render settings are selected as they are by default, you can choose a render preset to configure your output. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose the Vimeo preset, which is in the middle here. When you choose one of these presets, DaVinci Resolve configures the render settings to output a file that conforms to the destination's requirements. If you wanted to stop at this point and output the file, you could do so. The only parameter you would need to set would be the destination of the output file. Just below the row of presets, we're going to click the Browse button and choose a location for the output file. I'm just going to stick it on the desktop and let's click Save. Although that is all you must do to output a file, you also have many options that you can apply to presets. Let's examine some options that can be useful when creating files for streaming. So underneath our Browse button, we can see all the various different configuration options. Let's make sure we have the Video tab selected first of all. Although you can customize the video compression and format parameters in the Video tab, when you choose one of the easy presets, many of the basic settings are optimized for you. When the Vimeo preset was selected, QuickTime H.264 was chosen as the format and codec because those parameters are commonly used for web streaming videos. The preset also configures the resolution and frame rate menus to the current timeline settings as well. The bitrate or data rate settings offer various recommendations depending on the target streaming service. So for example, the default 10,000 kilobits a second or 10 megabits per second, that rate is the maximum for a 720p video on Vimeo. But it could be too high for use with other services. Let's lower the bitrate to ensure acceptable performance on some of the other web streaming services. So if I scroll down and in the quality restrict to kilobits per second section, I'm going to enter in a new value of 7,500 kilobits per second. You also have the option to perform a single pass encoding or a multi-pass encoding. In almost every case, you will want to choose multi-pass encoding. Multi-pass encoding uses the first pass to gather information about the images, then uses subsequent passes to efficiently encode the frames. It chooses the optimal number of bits to use based on the motion within those frames. That sounds as if it would always be the best choice, but the main reason you choose single pass is to save time. Multi-pass encoding can take 2 or 3 times as long to process as a single pass encoding. Because this is a short movie, we're going to choose multi-pass. So we're going to come into our passes section and choose multiple. Encoding profiles represent another group of settings that you can change, but the default auto profile is usually a good starting place. If you are aware of the specific device your content will be played on, then changing the encoding profile might be a good choice. If you're going directly to iPhone or Android, those devices prefer the base or baseline profile setting, which is a lower power consumption profile. If you're going to upload to Vimeo, then the high profile is the best choice because it was originally created as a digital format for Blu-ray discs. Choosing high will give you the best quality, but it creates a file that's larger and also has the highest computational power requirements as well. So in the encoding profile, we're going to choose high. And when you have all the video settings configured as I've shown you, you can switch to the audio tab at the top, and you can see the audio related controls within here. Most of the time, audio in a QuickTime H.264 file uses the AAC compression because AAC is the preferred choice for streaming audio on most sites. However, you have a few significant options that you can set. The bitrate strategy setting allows you to choose between constant and variable. When it comes to bit rates, a constant bitrate will give you a fixed target bitrate for the entire audio file. This is generally preferred by streaming media sites and podcasting guidelines because of the bitrate predictability. Variable bitrate encoding squeezes the same quality audio into smaller file sizes by varying the bitrate. A third option might just give you the best of both worlds though. The variable bitrate constrained option gives you the efficiency of variable bitrate, but it's limited to a target maximum bitrate in kilobits per second, similar to a constant bitrate. In the bitrate strategy menu, let's choose the variable bitrate constrained. Now that audio and video encoding is configured, we can now name the file that we're going to output. So below the Browse button, let's click the File tab to view the naming options. In the custom name section, let's open this up and we'll call this Training Movie for Streaming. So that is the easiest tab you will work with in the Deliver page. Before you output this file, let's add one more addition to the view. So let's go back now into the Video tab, and we're going to talk now about watermarks. You can add a text-based watermark similar to a title that overlays the video. Most often this watermark is used to superimpose a do not distribute text or display a running time code. The watermark is created and formatted using the data burning controls on the color page. Let's scroll down to the advanced settings and click the disclosure triangle. And let's make sure that the data burn is set to same as project. The burning controls can be accessed from any page. Just choose workspace, data burn in, and that will open up the data burn in window. Now, the left side of the data burn window includes a list of possible data types to overlay on the video. Selecting the checkbox next to any of these options will enable it. So from the list of burn-in data, let's select the record timecode checkbox, and that will overlay the record timecode onto the output movie file. Let's also select the custom text 1 checkbox to add a text watermark. In the custom output text, I'm going to put do not distribute. Let's drag the size slider to the right to increase the size of the text to 55. You can see our preview over here. The viewer displays all of the changes that we're making as we make them, and we're now ready to output this file to Vimeo. Let's close the data burn-in window, and let's go back into our Deliver page, and at the bottom of the render settings, let's click Add to Render Queue. The job is transferred over into the render queue, and it's ready to go. The render queue acts as a temporary holding area for jobs that you want to output from DaVinci Resolve. You can add as many jobs to the render queue as you need to output. Although you could render this file immediately, let's wait and let's prepare another job for the queue. So now I'm going to come back over to my render settings, and this time I'm going to choose Custom. When you have a few clips that need to receive motion graphics or will be integrated into visual effects, you will need to render just a selection of the timeline, and usually in a very specific format. Let's render out a section of the timeline in a format that is often required by visual effects technicians. They need high quality renders, but because DaVinci Resolve does not have a visual effects preset, you'll want to create one of your own and save it as a preset for later use. So I've clicked on the custom one here, and doing that makes all of the options become available in the render settings. So at the top of the settings, I'm going to click the single clip option because I want just a single clip to be output. And I'm going to make sure in the video tab that the video format menu is set to EXR. EXR, in case you're wondering, is a single frame format like TIFF that is often requested by visual effects studios. So because these files are needed to produce visual effects, you'll want to disable the watermark. Let's scroll down to the data burn-in section and let's set that to none. So although that burn is now disabled, the overlay is still shown in the viewer. Because EXR files do not have audio tracks, you can skip the audio tab entirely and go to the file tab. Let's enter a custom name again, and this one is going to be Airplane Visual Effects. Because each frame will become an EXR file, we'll need to number the frames so that the visual effects artists will know the order in which the frame should appear. So let's set the use digits section to 4. So we're going to use 4 digits in the file name. Because none of our shots are over 1,000 frames long, 4 digits should be plenty. Let's select the each clip starts at frame checkbox, and let's set that numerical field to 001. So next, because we want to send only one shot from our timeline, we need to dictate that in the timeline. So in the deliver page timeline, let's move the playhead over shot 8, the South Pole DC3 clip. And I'm going to press X to mark that clip, or I can use the mark menu, mark clip. The marks in the timeline will identify the region that's going to be output. At the top of the render settings, let's go into the options menu, the 3 little dots. Let's choose save as new preset, and let's enter the name Visual Effects Output, and click OK. The new preset's name appears at the top of the render settings, indicating that it is the currently active setting. It is also listed in the row of presets. With all of the settings configured, you can now add this job to the render queue. So we're going to click the Add to Render Queue button, and that will now stack that up alongside the other job. So you now have 2 jobs in your render queue. If you save and Quick DaVinci Resolve now and return later, those jobs will still be in the render queue. Because you may not want to devote disk space to these lesson results, you won't be expected to render them for this exercise. But if you're particularly proud of the work that you've done, then by all means export them and save them forevermore. What we're going to do though is skip over the next part, which would be to simply hit Start Render and watch the progress bars as they output these files. What might be more useful to know right now though is how to clear the render queue. So in the upper right corner of the render queue, there's the little options pop-up menu, and in there we can choose clear all, clear rendered. So once jobs have actually output, have rendered, they do stay within this section until you clear them, and they simply indicate at the top that they've been completed and they've been rendered. We've also got show job details, refresh, and show all projects as options in this menu. I'm going to choose clear all. So the deliver page has many more options for outputting various file formats and for supporting a variety of workflows. But you now understand the most commonly used workflows and how to set up your own custom presets.